Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya
Jaya
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya
Jaya Radha
Radha
Madhava Kunja Bihari
Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari
Jai Gopi Janavallabha
Jaya
Jaya
Girivaradari
Girivaradari
Jaya
Jaya Girivaradari
Yashodanandana Vraja Janaran Yashodanandana
Yashodanandana Vraj Janaranjana
Vraja Janaran
Yashodanandana
Yashodanandana
Vraj Janaranjana
Yamunatiravala Chari
Yamuna Tira
Yamunatira
Vanachari
Yamunatiravanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna
Kunja Bihari
Jaya
Jaya
Radha
Radha
Madhava Kunja Bihari
Bihari
Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya
Jaya
Radha
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 Madhava
Kunja
Jaya
Bihari
Bihari
Bihari.
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna Hare
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 Hare, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna Hare
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 Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama
Rama
Rama Rama
Rama,
Hare
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 Hare.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna Hare
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 Hare, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama Hare Rama
Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Rama
Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama,
Maram, Hare
Hare
Hare, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama, Rama
Rama Rama,
Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
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 Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama,
Hare
Hare Hare.
Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna
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 Krishna,
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 Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama, Rama
Rama
Rama, Hare
Rama, Hare
Hare,
Hare.
Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya
Gaurani
Gauranitai,
Gauranga,
Gauranitai,
Gauranita
Jaya
Gauranita
Gauranita
Jaya
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada,
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Prabhupada
Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Dev Gurudev
Gurudev Jaya
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 Gurudev.
Hari Bol.
Nitya Gaura
Gaura Hari
Hari
Bol,
Hari
Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Hari Bol.
Gaur Premanande Hari
Hari
Bol.
Hari
Hari Bol.
Bol.
Namo Vishvat Paramahansa Prabhupada Ashtotter His Divine Grace of High Church Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai,
non-founder Chair, Beauty Founder Chair, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai,
Anand Kori Vaishnav Vrinda ki Jai.
Jai,
Shri Haridas Thakur ki Jai.
Jai.
प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत
Shri
गदाधर
Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaura Bhakta
की
Gaura
Vrinda.
Bhakta Vrinda
Jai,
ki
श्री
jai.
श्री राधा कृष्ण गो गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय
Jai,
श्री श्री वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय श्री
Jai,
नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय
Jai.
पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय
Jai,
गंगा माय जमुना माय की जय
Jai,
देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय
Jai,
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय
Jai,
हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय
Jai.
Jai,
रंगा बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय इसमें
Jai,
यात्रा की जय
Jai.
Hi, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Hari
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 Hari Bol.
Bol.
All glorious testimonies, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glorious testimonies, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glorious testimonies, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glorious, Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glorious Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai.
Jai.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
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 Namo
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 Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
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 Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
So, welcome to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Reading today, we are actually starting a new chapter. So, today we are in Canto 5, Chapter 2, the activities of Maharaj Agnidhara, and the first verse we are going to read. So it's in a prose style, but we will still try to recite. I think because reciting Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam verse is always very auspicious. So I'll give it a go. Let's see if it works. Shri Shuka Vacha
Shri Shuka
Vishukkavacha.
Vacha.
Evam Pitari Sampravarti Tad Anushashane
Evam
Evam
Pitari
Pitari
Pitare
Sampravartita
Sampravarti
Pravrtanushashane
Vartamana Agnidharo
Vartaman
Vartamana
Agnidro
Agniro
Jambudipakshah Praja Aura Savar
Jambudip
Jambudipakasha Praja
Praja
Aurasava.
Aurasura
Jambudipakshah Praja Aura Savar
Jambudvip
Jambudipakasha
Kashah
Praja
Praja
Aurasava.
Praja
Aurasava
Aurasavad
Dharma Bhikshamanaha Praya Gopayad
Dharma
Dharma
Mayeshmana
Vekshamana
Prayagopaya.
Prayagopaya
Dharma Bhikshamanaha Paryakryopayad
Dharma
Dharma Vekshamana Paryagopaya
Shri Shukha Uvacha
Sri
Shuka
Shukavacha
Vacha.
Evam Pitari Sampravirte Tad Anushashane
एवं पितरि
संप्रवृत्ते
तदनुशासने
वर्तमानाग्निधरो
वर्तमान अग्निधरो
जम्बूद्वीपक्षः प्रजा औरसवात्
जम्बूद्वीपोऽक्षः प्रजाः
प्रजाः
धर्मवेक्षामनः पर्यागोपयात्
धर्मवेक्षमाणः पर्यगोपयात्
श्रीशुकवाच
शुक उवाच
एवं पितारि सम्प्रवर्ते तदनुशासने
एवं पितरि तदनुशासने
वर्तमानाग्निधरो
वर्तमान अग्निध्रो
जम्बूद्वीपक्षः प्रजारसवात्
जम्बूद्वीपक्ष प्रजा और सवा
धर्मवेक्षामनः पर्यागोपयात्
धर्मवेक्षमाणः पर्योगोपया
हरे कृष्ण
एवं पितारि सम्प्रवृत्ते तदनुशासने
पितरि तदनुशासने
वत् आत्मना अग्नितिरो
वर्तमान अग्निध्रो
जम्बूद्वीपोऽक्षः प्रजा औरसवात्
जम्बूद्वीप
प्रजा
प्रजा
धर्मवीक्षमाणः परयोगोपयात्
धर्मवीक्षमाणः पर्योगोपयात्
श्रीशुक उवाच
श्रीशुक उवाच
एवं पितृ संप्रवर्ते
एवं
तदनुशासने
एवं पितरि संप्रवृत्ते तदनुशासने
वर्तमान अग्निधरो जाम्बूद्वीपपोक्षः
वर्तमानग्निधर जम्बूद्वीपकोसः
प्रजा और सब धर्म अपेक्षमानः प्रयोग पायात
प्रजा और स्वत धर्म अवेक्षमाणः पर्योपयात् श्रीशुक उवाच
श्रीशुक उवाच
एवं पितरि संप्रवृत्ते तदनुशासने
एवं पितृ संप्रवृत्ते तदनुशासने
वर्तमान अग्निध्रो जम्बूद्वीपोऽकसः
वर्तमान अग्निधरो जम्बूद्वीपोऽक्षः
प्रजा और सवर्धमान वेक्षमाणः पर्यगोपायत्
प्रजा
और
सवर्धमान
वेक्षमाणः पर्यगोपायत्
Word by word translation. Sri Shukha,
Sri
Shukadev Goswami,
Sri Shukadev Goswami Uvacha said
Evam,
thus
Pitari, when his father, Sampravrate, took to the path of liberation, Tat Anusashane, according to his order, Vartamanaha, situated, Agnidhara, King Agnidhara, Jambudipa Ukshaha, the inhabitants of Jambudipa, Prajaha,
Praja.
citizens,
Citizens.
Aurasavat,
Aurasvat.
Aurasvat.
as if they were his sons,
As if they were his
They were
sons.
his sons.
dharma,
Dharma.
religious principles,
Religious
Religious
principles.
principles.
avikshamaanaha,
Avekshamaanaha.
Avekshamanaha.
strictly observing,
Strictly observing.
parayagopayat,
Paryagopayat.
Parayagopayat.
completely protected.
Completely protected.
Protected.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hey.
The translation, I'll read the translation first and then we will recite together. So the translation is, Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, after his father, Maharaj Priyavrata, departed to follow the path of spiritual life by undergoing austerities, King Agnidhara completely obeyed his order. Strictly observing the principle of religion, he gave full protection to the inhabitants of Jambudipa as if they were his own begotten sons. So let's read together. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued,
Shukadev Goswami continued.
after his father,
After his father,
Maharaj Priyavrata,
Maharaj Priyavrata
departed to follow
departed to follow
the path of spiritual life
the
path of spiritual life
by undergoing austerities.
by undergoing austerities.
austerities.
King Agnidhara
King Agnidhara
completely obeyed his order,
completely obeyed his order.
strictly observing
Strictly observing
the principles of religion.
the principles of religion.
He gave
He gave
full protection
full protection
to the inhabitants of Jambudipa
to the inhabitants of Jambudipa
as if
as if
they were his own begotten sons.
they were his own begotten sons.
The Bhaktivedanta purport. Following the instruction of his father, Maharaj Priyavrata, Maharaj Agnidhara ruled the inhabitants of Jambudipa according to religious principles. These principles are exactly contrary to the modern principles of faithlessness. As clearly stated here, the king protected the citizens the way a father protects his begotten children. How he ruled the citizen is also described here. Dharma Veksha Manaha, strictly according to religious principles. It is the duty of the executive head of the state to see that the citizens strictly follow religious principles. The Vedic religious principles begin with Varnashram Dharma, the duties of the four Varnas and Ashramas. Dharma refers to principles given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The first principle of Dharma or religion is to observe the duties of the four orders as enjoined by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to people's qualities and activities, society should be divided into Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, and then again into Brahmacharis, Grihasthas, Vanaprasthas, and Sannyasis. These are religious principles, and it is the duty of the head of the state to see that his citizens strictly follow them. He should not merely act officially. He should be like a father who is always a well-wisher of his sons. Such a father strictly observes whether his sons are performing their duties, and sometimes he also punishes them. Just contrary to the principles mentioned here, the presidents and the chief executives in the age of Kali are simply tax collectors who do not care whether religious principles are observed. Indeed, the chief executives of the present day introduced all kinds of sinful activities, especially illicit sex, intoxication, animal killing, and gambling. These sinful activities are now very prominently manifested in India. Although 100 years ago, these four principles of sinful life were strictly prohibited in the families of India, they have now even introduced into even Indian family. Therefore, they cannot follow religious principle. In contrast to the principle of the kings of old, the modern state is concerned only with propaganda for levying the taxes and is no longer responsible for the spiritual welfare of the citizen. The state is now callous to religious principles. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam predicts that in Kali Yuga, the government will be entrusted with Dashu Dharma, which means the occupational duty of rogues and thieves. Modern heads of state are rogues and thieves who plunder the citizens instead of giving them protection. Rogues and thieves plunder without regard of law. But in this age of Kali, as stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the lawmakers themselves plunder the citizen. The next prediction ought to be fulfilled, which is already coming to pass, is that because of the sinful activities of the citizen and the government, rain will become increasingly scarce. Gradually, there will be complete drought and no production of food grains. People will be reduced to eating flesh and seeds, and many good, spiritually inclined people will have to forsake their homes because they will be too harassed by drought, taxation, and famine. The Krishna consciousness movement is the only hope to save the world from such devastation. It is the most scientific and authorized movement for the actual welfare of the whole human society. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamaya Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Shri Ramscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Shaitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Gunatam Tam Sajivam Sa He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwabhanu Sute Dehi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Shri Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhuvaiva Cha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kaviviritam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Bhuvignati Jebhurida Jana Bhuvignati Jebhurida Jana Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So Hare Krishna everyone. So today's this verse that we have started this new chapter. So this is now we have like as we discuss this beautiful verse from the 5th canto, the first chapter. It's describing the character of King Agnidhara. On the surface, this verse, appears to be a simple description of administration of in the Vedic administration, like the how the kings used to rule the rule their kingdom after their father retired. But as is often like with every verse with Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, there are very deep lessons also here for which for our own spiritual lives. So that's why this verse is not another verse which merely about government or politics. That it has been like, sometimes if we just read it, sometimes we just feel like that we are reading something that it is criticizing the current situation, current way of how things are getting managed. But it's merely not about that. If when we go through in deep, we see that this verse is regarding, there are a few important points which get discussed. So it is start with, it's about obedience, it's about responsibility, it's about leadership qualities, it's about compassion, and ultimately this is um, that this verse actually shows us that what is the real purpose of human life. So let's go into deep of this verse. And very fortunately, like Srila Prabhupada has so, it so simply has explained this for us, so it's becoming so easy for us to understand. So let's take these points one after another and go through them. So the first verse, so the first thing, the verse begins by describing how King Priyabrata left his kingdom to pursue spiritual perfection. And as we have been reading about Priyabrata Maharaj, like we should again, we should glorify Priyabrata Maharaj as much as possible. That Priyabrata Maharaj, because he is an extraordinary personality, right? As we have been reading about him, that initially he was completely detached from material life and wanted to dedicate himself for spiritual advancement, right? But as we see that by the order of on the order of Brahma, Lord Brahma, he accepted the responsibility of ruling the world. And there actually lies a very important principle, that Krishna consciousness, if somebody thinks that Krishna consciousness is something about giving up the duties, giving up the responsibilities, or in a way that Krishna consciousness is kind of escapism. It's not escapism. That sometimes also a common thinking, is people think that spiritual life means someone is taking they are just going away from their they're kind of avoiding their responsibilities, right? But Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam teaches exactly opposite that. Real spiritual life means accepting responsibilities as an offering to Krishna. So when we get this, when we get the opportunity to serve, we actually we take responsibility that, okay, this service I'm taking up, and it's actually an offering to Krishna. And this is, we see from the example of King Priyabrata, that he ruled perfectly because he understood that the leadership that he had, that he got ordered by Brahma to do, is actually a service. It's not an opportunity for enjoyment. And that's how his mood is. So that's why he ruled perfectly. So then when he finished up and he retired, then the responsibility came to his son Agnidhara. And this verse at the first point comes a very important part about Vedic leadership. And what it says, that tad anushashane vartamanaha. And what does it mean is, he ruled according to the instruction of his father. This is very important, because we need to understand that the success of Agnidhara did not begin with his own capabilities or or his own administrative skills. It actually began with obedience. And in Vedic culture, and as we read, like various pastime in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam about all the great kings and also great sages, greatness is actually not measured by how independently they act, right? But it's actually how faithfully they followed the higher authorities. And this is quite contrary to modern civilization, because in modern world, often the the independence or the rebellious natures, that get glorified. Like, go and break the structure, just like, why you have to listen to someone, just go and do your own thing and things like that. But as per our Vedic scripture, we see that real success comes when someone submits to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And we see that our, the biggest example that we see in front of us, that for spiritual success, is Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada often mentioned, I'm sure all of you have heard, that he mentioned that his only qualification was that he strictly followed the instruction of his spiritual master. And that's how you see that our parampara, the entire disciplic succession, Brahma, Madhav, Gauriya, Vaishnava Sampradaya, it works because each generation faithfully carries the instruction of the previous one. Just a very simple example, that a train reaches from one destination to another destination safely if it remains on the track. Similarly, a devotee, for devotees, for practicing devotees like us, perfection remains if we remain on the path laid down by the previous acharyas. So that's why the point that has been mentioned here, that anushasane vartamanaha, is very important. Obedience is something often puts into the light of, he just abiding the following or listening whatever the his superior are saying. He doesn't have any intelligence, he just do whatever, he just act like a puppet. But to be honest, in Vedic civilization, that's what a true follower needs to do. The quality of a good leader is actually he is a good follower. The quality of a good speaker is actually he is a good listener. And that's how it works. So when the leader, he knows how to follow, then he can put things in places, so he knows that what helped him, it will help other. It all work on the basis of vigyan. Gyan is something which is good to have, but it doesn't help us. Gyan often actually deters someone from that track, because it puts so much doubt in your head. But when that gyan becomes vigyan, means like knowledge becomes applied knowledge, then you see, then the realization comes. And through that, we know that, okay, this is the path which has been laid before me, right? So, and Prabhupada also, in his prayers, in the Jaladuta diaries, the last stanza is that I'm a mere puppet in your hand. Just whatever way, in the puppet show, how they pull the strings, Prabhupada is praying to Krishna that just pull in whatever way you want to pull. I simply don't care. I'm completely surrendering to you. And that is the success of spiritual life. So that is first point, that anushasane vartamanaha. Then it describes the mood with which Agnidhara ruled, and the word mentioned is aurasavad. He protected the citizens as auras, or means as if they were his own son. And this again, like, reveals the conception, Vedic conception of leadership, right? It basically, when they are leading, they see that everyone is part of their own family. It's not like often, like in today's world we see for the leaders, it is that often leaders often see these days, like from political leaders, they see the people as numbers for voters, like, or government see people as taxpayers, business see people as customers or employees, you know. But Agnidhara, he saw the citizen as a member of his family. And when someone has that vision, then what happened? It further naturally sacrifice for the children, right? And he often, like, thinks about the welfare of the family. So for a father, doesn't count that, okay, from which of my children I'm going to get this thing or that thing and things like that. No, which is currently the in the world, the leadership just simply look at like them. There is no affection there, it's only exploitation. So that's why the the Vedic kings, they understood that their position exists for the welfare of their subjects. Their leadership, they exist because it's never meant for exploitation, it's meant for protection. It's very important for leadership to understand that that any leadership is there is for protection, to make sure that all these subjects are under my care. So I have to do anything or everything to make sure that they feel protected. And if I can't do it, then I shouldn't take that responsibility. And that is what mentioned in fifth canto itself, by the verse spoken by Rishabh Dev. It's very famous verse. I'm sure, like, all of you have heard about it. Guru na shashyat, sajano na shashyat, pita na shashyat, janani na shashyat, Daivantastasyan napatischa shasyan namochayat ye samupeta mityum. So the translation is one should not become a father, one should not become a spiritual master, a father, a mother, a relative, or a leader unless one can deliver one's dependents from the path of repeated birth and death. So this basically completely transforms the understanding of, like, the responsibility. Like, modern society defines the success as like helping someone becoming more materially comfortable, right? But Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam defines success as helping someone becomes more spiritually liberated. You know, if a material father may only focus on providing food, shelter, and education, but a spiritual father or a spiritual master, what they do, they help revive their forgotten relationship with Krishna, revive the forgotten relationship with Krishna for their followers. So it's not merely about providing economic development. Like, these days, if a leader comes to you, the first thing they will say, we are here and we want you to make us a leader because we will provide you economic development. And which is often not the case. Like, that's why we see so much, all these issues happen because what was promised as a economic development, that never happened. So, but in Vedic civilization, the leaders, they don't focus on the economic development. They guide people towards self-realization. And when self-realization come, all the other things will follow automatically. So that's why it's very important that the leader, like, the mood of Agnidhara was aura savad, like, as treating the subjects, or like all the people in his kingdom as is they are like his own family person, right? So now let's go to the next one. The next phrase in this verse that we want to focus is dharma vekshamanaha. You know, so dharma vekshamanaha means that that Agnidhara ruled the kingdom as per religious principles. So this is very important to understand that again when leadership comes, if we don't do everything as per the religious principle, is as per the guru, sadhu and shastra, then no matter how much effort we put, it just doesn't work. You know, because as it has been explained that this is very crucial to to follow the religious principle, because without the religious principle, if you have compassion, that compassion just becomes a sentiment. That sentiment which might be there for some time, but it will not something which will help that for someone whom you are caring for long term. And also on the other side, for a leadership, for the authority, if they don't follow the religious principle, then it becomes like a tyranny. Like, you know, like why people, like, you know, people these days like often complain, like either in spiritual organization and material organization, everywhere, oh, like, you know, they are just managing it or ruling it, like they are the only one who knows and things like that. People have that understanding, or like not the understanding, misunderstanding, that understanding or misunderstanding that, oh, it's just the ruler is like a tyrant. So that's why the religious principle or the dharma is the foundation that actually balances the both. And Srila Prabhupada here in the purport explained that it all started with well, like, you know, it begins with the systems of varnashram, you know, so which organizes the society as per qualities and activities. And the importance of varnashram is not social superiority. Like these days, like, you know, if you in India specifically, like whenever this varnashram or like the caste religion this get mentioned, people gets really like aggravated, because they think it's for social superiority, because someone wants to bring the varna or the dharma because they want to make themselves superior to other. No, it's not about social superiority, it's about spiritual cooperation. So, and for them it will be very hard to understand like how it can be a cooperation if we are having this, like, you know, hierarchy. But then when we read in the Vedic scriptures, it has been explained that like how every part in our body has a different functions, but serve as a whole for the body. Similarly, every member of the society has a unique role for serving Krishna. So when society forgets that this arrangement, then confusion naturally arises. Then basically, if serving Krishna doesn't remain in the center, then everyone start to serve their own self, and that's where all the issues comes, and that's how eventually Varnashram Dharma has destroyed. So that's why it's important to understand this Varnashram. Like, you know, Srila Prabhupada also emphasized quite a lot on Varnashram, because this is something, if it comes, then it will show that mood of harmony, mood of cooperation among all of them, who understand what their position is in the society, in life, and as per that they will serve to please Krishna, and within a cooperative mood, which is often is the issue, that biggest issue that happens, that we can't cooperate with each other. No matter whatever we try, it's just hard to cooperate. So that's why the Varnashram, understand this principle of Varnashram Dharma is very important. And also in the similar way, that in the similar topic, in the current model world, often it gets emphasized about the rights, but nobody emphasize on duties. Duties get neglected. Everyone knows that when they are entitled to receive something, but very few know that how to contribute back. We get so much engrossed in that receiving thing. Oh, I need to receive this, I need to get this, I need to get that. Often, there is no idea, or there is no way. Also, it has been taught to anyone that how you can contribute back. So Vedic civilization here, why because why we are discussing this, to understand that why Agnidhara becomes successful, because Vedic culture begins not with rights but with responsibilities. A Brahmana has a specific duty, a Kshatriya has a specific duty, a Vaishya has a specific duty, a Sudra has a specific duty. Similarly, for Brahmachari, Grihasthas, Vanaprasthas, Sannyasis, each have duties. And when everyone properly perform their duties in Krishna consciousness, society becomes harmonious and spiritually progressive. That's how it works. It's not only about the right. Oh, I'm lower caste, so I have to have this right and this right. That only happens when everyone's duty hasn't been fulfilled properly. If the Brahmanas take undue advantage, and then for rather than serving Krishna, they try to serve themselves, then obviously they try to exploit, manipulate all the others. And obviously when the exploitation happens, the others, they will see that, that we are getting exploited. So they also they leave the duty that they are supposed to do, and rather than then take up the rights, that okay, this is my right, I have to do it. And that's where all the issues come. So that system breaks down, and the harmony and basically get lost, and we become more and more backward from spiritual perspective. So that's why it's very important to understand that what is the importance of varnashram. It's often we think, okay, this is something a primitive idea or something. I know it's very, very scientific. So just after this, Srila Prabhupada, then in the purport, he mentioned about one other thing, which is um, like you know we mentioned this point about the leadership in the ancient kings, with the leadership of the ancient kings with the leadership of Kali Yuga, that the the Kali Yuga leadership, they will gradually becomes absorbed in Dasyu Dharma, means like the occupation of thieves and rogues, which we see that in current day and age. Like rather than protecting citizen, leaders will exploit them. Then the Rakshak becomes the Bhaksha. You know, rather than encouraging virtue, rather than encourage, or they actually will facilitate the society with sinful activities, because the leaders, they themselves engage in sinful activities. They will say, oh, I want to do all these sinful activities, but if I get caught by the others, then they will criticize us. Rather than let me engage everyone in sinful activities, so let us put all the things there. So that's why Srila Prabhupada mentioned, in the purport, that this widespread promotion of intoxication, illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, right? These these activities are not merely moral issues. They are the pillar for supporting material consciousness. And it's very important, Prabhupada mentioned about material consciousness. They are the support for that support. They are the pillars for supporting material consciousness. Material consciousness, if you more think about it, it's like, yes, okay, the morality of it. But then all this all this the more this sinful activities get promoted, the more these activities promoted, the more people forget about the spiritual identity. And this is Srila Prabhupada, like how he puts it in the purport in a very, very, like, strong way, that this, because this is happening, that's why we are becoming more and more backward. We can't progress in spiritual life. Another point Prabhupada also mentioned is about the environmental disturbance, right? About like the drought, about why the rain is not there. Because modern society just see that, that the drought, famine, and like ecological imbalance, they just see that these are all the material issues. No, again, from the scriptures we get this deeper understanding, that in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in chapter 3, Krishna explains that the food grains depends upon rain, right? Rain depends upon sacrifice, and the yagna, the sacrifice, depend upon performing one's prescribed duties. The human, when the humans abandons the dharma, then nature obviously react in that way. So that's why it's actually we see that, that rain these days, less and less rain. Water is finishing up, for like, drinking water is finishing up. People are just trying to work out in many different ways that how we can bring out all this, like, in a scientific way, how we can get more water, how we can get more crops, how can, and even to make the crops, what they are doing, scientifically they are modifying the genetics. But when they're modifying the genetics of those, they are getting more crops out of that, but it has another effect, because the genetics has now changed in the crop. So how it used to, like, give nutrition, that has also changed. So the nutrition part is getting like, missing from those food. So the food items that we are trying to get now, or before, or 100 years before, how like effective they were to give the nutrition to a human body, it has reduced significantly. And on top of that, because of all the exploitation, all the thievery, all the rogueness, there are lots and lots of adulteration of all food stuff. So sometimes people are just simply eating poison in a way. So that's why, but now people are again trying, modern society is trying, just by technological like innovation, to manage this situation. But the solution is not merely technology's innovation. It is it is spiritual purification. The way it happened, the way it has been described, the sacrifices, it all happens, it's because like a purification that we need. So that's why it's like, it's important that as part of this, like, the spiritual culture, we maintain all these things. It is scientific. It's not something that is written in an old book, so that it used to be done by people 1,000 years back, we don't need it now. No, everything is required, and it is the responsibility of the leaders to put all these things in place. So that's why it's important that, to understand, because sometimes someone say, like, okay, so this is all for the leaders, why, what it has to do with us, like, who are not leaders? But everyone has some kind of leadership role in their life. If that person is if that person is a parent, like guiding children, or senior devotees guiding junior devotees, temple leaders guiding congregation, everywhere there is this leadership. And that's why, like, it's very important that everyone has that responsibility, that to take someone to the proper path via Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada himself embodied these qualities described in this verse. He saw this entire world as his family. At an age of, like, where most people will retire, he crossed the ocean. He had heart attack still to fulfill his order of his spiritual master. He traveled to US, and then he didn't stop there. He traveled continuously, translated books night after night, endures like, immense hardship, like, for what? Just to simply give people the opportunity, so that they can reconnect with Krishna. And this is like, like Agnidhara, he protected people spiritually. He gave us, like, he gave us this institution that where we can take shelter. We can take shelter of the books. We honor prasadam. Then we indulge ourselves in holy name, deity worship, association, everything that he gave us. And that's why it's important that, like, we take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, we take shelter of the books that Srila Prabhupada has given us, and we maintain our sadhana in the way, because everyone has some sort of leadership that we need to perform. And if we have to be successful in that, we have to take this example of King Agnidhara. And before we just finish with this, that why it is important, because by following the teaching of Srila Prabhupada and embracing all these principles of Krishna consciousness, it helps, at least it can show someone that you can become a protector rather than an exploiter. We can become servant rather than the master. And ultimately, the most important thing, which is we can become the instrument of Krishna's mercy in lives of others. So with that point, I'd like to end here. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So if anyone have any question or comments, maybe quickly we can take, we are over time, but maybe we can take one or two.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for class today. That was awesome. And you packed a lot of information in there. Granted, it was a very full shloka and purport today. But I did want to pick up on your point around the fundamental point of obedience. I thought that was really nicely clarified. Because often I personally can get a little bit confused when I hear devotees saying, don't be blind followers. Don't be meek mice. You're like sheep, you devotees. I've even heard devotees speaking about devotees being blind followers. But actually, when you clarified that point of obedience being fundamental to our Vaishnava tradition and for our aspiring to be Vaishnavas, we have to get that obedience right. So that was a really good point, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you much. Okay, thank you all then. We finish here and we'll again see you all tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you for the good class, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Vanchakalpataruvasya kripa
Kripa
sindhu
Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
His grace.
Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari.
His Grace Somendra Krishna Das Prabhu Ji ki jai.
Jai.
Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
Jai.